Nothing went wrong. That's why it ended. No betrayal, no crisis, no dramatic failure, no fight that broke everything, no moment where trust shattered, no event that destroyed connection. Everything was fine, relationship was stable, connection was comfortable, partnership was peaceful, daily life was smooth, interactions were pleasant, and that's exactly why it ended. Not despite nothing being wrong, because nothing was wrong. Not although everything was fine, because everything was fine, not in spite of peace, due to peace. This confuses most people, violates expectations, contradicts what you've been told about relationships. You've been told relationships end because something breaks, because problems emerge, because conflicts escalate, because someone does something wrong. But many relationships end because nothing breaks, because no problems emerge, because no conflicts exist, because nobody does anything wrong. They end in silence, not explosion, in fade, not fire, in exhaustion, not drama, in quiet, not chaos. And quiet endings are harder to understand than dramatic endings. Silent deaths are more confusing than explosive deaths. Fade is more mysterious than fire, because when something breaks, you can point to break. When problem emerges, you can identify problem. When conflict exists, you can see conflict. But when nothing breaks, there's nothing to point to. When no problem emerges, there's nothing to identify. When no conflict exists, there's nothing to see. Just ending, just fade, just death. Without explanation, without reason, without cause that makes sense. And here's how you know this is happening. Everything's fine, but something feels empty. Nothing's wrong, but something's missing. Relationship works, but something's gone. You can't identify what's empty, can't name what's missing, can't point to what's gone. Just vague sense that something isn't there that should be there. That vague sense is the warning. That feeling of something missing is the signal. That emptiness you can't name is the indicator. But warning is ignored because everything's fine. Signal is dismissed because nothing's wrong. Indicator is explained away because relationship appears healthy. How can relationship be ending when everything's fine? How can connection be dying when nothing's wrong? How can partnership be over when peace exists? This is the confusion. This is the mystery. This is what makes silent death harder than dramatic death. Understanding why nothing wrong leads to ending requires understanding what relationships need to survive, what connections require to continue, what partnerships demand to persist. Relationships don't just need absence of problems, need presence of aliveness, don't just require no conflict, require active energy. Don't just demand no wrong, demand active right. And fine isn't alive, peaceful isn't energy. No wrong isn't active, right? Fine is neutral. Peaceful is static. No wrong is passive. And neutral doesn't sustain life. Static doesn't generate energy. Passive doesn't create continuation. Relationships are living systems, require energy to maintain, need charge to continue, demand fuel to persist. And energy doesn't come from absence of problems. Charge doesn't generate from lack of conflict. Fuel doesn't create from nothing being wrong. Energy comes from engagement. Charge generates from tension. Fuel creates from active investment. But when everything's fine, engagement decreases. When nothing's wrong, tension disappears. When peace exists, investment reduces. Because brain doesn't invest energy in solved situations, doesn't generate attention for stable scenarios, doesn't create engagement with predictable outcomes. Brain invests where uncertainty exists, generates attention where variation occurs, creates engagement where outcome is unknown. But fine means certain. Peaceful means stable. Nothing wrong means predictable. And certain doesn't get investment. Stable doesn't get attention. Predictable doesn't get engagement. Without investment, energy depletes. Without attention, charge dies. Without engagement, fuel exhausts. And depleted energy is dying relationship. Dead charge is dead connection. Exhausted fuel is ended partnership. This is why nothing wrong leads to ending. Why everything fine results in death. Why peace produces termination. Not because fine is bad, because fine without energy is death. Not because peace is wrong, because peace without charge is ending. Not because nothing wrong is problematic, because nothing wrong without fuel is exhaustion. Here's the part that will bother you, because it contradicts what healthy relationship is supposed to look like. Relationships that last aren't the ones where everything's fine, are the ones where engagement persists, aren't the ones where nothing's wrong, are the ones where energy continues, aren't the ones where peace exists, are the ones where charge maintains. And engagement can exist with conflict, energy can continue with problems, charge can maintain with imperfection. Because conflict creates engagement when conflict is energetic. Problems generate energy when problems require solving. Imperfection maintains charge when imperfection creates variation. This doesn't mean conflict is good. Means lifeless peace is worse than energetic conflict. Doesn't mean problems are desirable. Means energy-generating problems are better than energy-depleting perfection. Most people optimize for wrong thing. Work toward everything being fine. Strive for nothing being wrong. Aim for complete peace. And achieving these goals kills relationship. Reaching everything fine depletes energy. Arriving at nothing wrong exhausts fuel. Establishing complete peace eliminates charge. You worked toward stability and achieved relationship death. Strived for peace and created connection ending. Aimed for fine and produced partnership exhaustion. Not because you failed, because you succeeded at wrong objective. Not because you did wrong, because you did right thing that kills relationships. Not because goals were bad, because goals were deadly. There's specific progression to silent death. Specific stages through which energy depletes. Specific process by which nothing wrong becomes everything over. Stage 1 is problem resolution, where issues get solved, conflicts get resolved, difficulties get handled. Each problem solved feels like progress. Each conflict resolved seems like improvement. Each difficulty handled appears as advancement. And it is progress, is improvement, is advancement for immediate situation, for current problem, for present conflict. But cumulative problem resolution leads to no problems remaining. Cumulative conflict resolution results in no conflicts existing. Cumulative difficulty handling produces no difficulties present, and no problems means no engagement with problems. No conflicts means no energy from conflicts. No difficulties means no charge from difficulties. Stage 2 is routine establishment, where patterns become fixed, behaviors become predictable, interactions become automatic, routine feels efficient, predictability seems stable, automatic appears smooth, and it is efficient. Is stable, is smooth, for daily functioning, for life management, for practical operation. But routine eliminates variation. Predictability removes surprise. Automatic destroys spontaneity, and variation creates attention. Surprise generates interest. Spontaneity produces engagement. Without variation, attention fades. Without surprise, interest declines. Without spontaneity, engagement dies. Stage 3 is comfort achievement, where relationship becomes easy. Connection becomes effortless. Partnership becomes simple. Easy feels good. Effortless seems ideal. Simple appears optimal. And it does feel good, does seem ideal, does appear optimal for immediate experience, for daily sensation, for present moment. But easy eliminates challenge. Effortless removes effort. Simple destroys complexity. And challenge creates investment. Effort generates energy. Complexity produces depth. Without challenge, investment withdraws. Without effort, energy depletes. Without complexity, depth disappears. Stage 4 is energy depletion, where relationship runs on fumes. Connection operates on momentum. Partnership continues from habit. Fumes run out. Momentum stops. Habit breaks. And when fumes are gone, relationship ends. When momentum stops, connection dies. When habit breaks, partnership terminates, not from explosion, from exhaustion. Not from fire, from fade, not from drama, from silence. And here's what makes this especially confusing. Both people can feel it simultaneously. Both can sense emptiness at same time. Both can experience missing something together, but both explain it differently. Both interpret it separately. Both respond to it individually. One person thinks it's temporary. thinks energy will return, thinks it's just phase. Other person recognizes it's permanent, knows energy won't return, understands it's not phase. Same experience, different interpretation, same sensation, different conclusion, same emptiness, different response, and different responses create different timelines. One person waiting for return that won't come, other person preparing for ending that will come. This is how silent deaths happen with both people present, how relationships end while both are still there, how partnerships terminate while both remain. One waiting, one leaving, one hoping, one done, one believing in return, one accepting ending. There's specific moment when energy depletion becomes irreversible, when exhaustion becomes permanent, when nothing wrong becomes everything over. Replacement moment, when depleted relationship gets compared to potential new relationship, when exhausted connection gets measured against possible fresh connection, when energy dead partnership gets evaluated against energy alive possibility. Comparison is devastating. Measurement is final. Evaluation is conclusive. Dead compared to alive reveals how dead is. Exhausted compared to fresh shows how exhausted is. Depleted compared to full exposes how depleted is. And comparison leads to decision. Decision leads to ending. Ending happens while everything's still fine, because everything is fine, just dead, nothing is wrong, just over, peace exists, just without life. This is point of no return. The moment when everything being fine is revealed as everything being finished. Most men miss this moment completely. Don't recognize comparison as happening. Don't see evaluation as occurring. Don't understand decision is being made. They see everything's fine. They interpret as relationship is fine. They observe nothing's wrong. They conclude connection is healthy. They notice peace. They assume partnership is strong. But fine with no energy is finished. Healthy with no charge is dead. Strong with no fuel is exhausted. And finished relationships end. Dead connections terminate. Exhausted partnerships dissolve. Not through explosion, but through quiet exit. Not through fire, but through fade. Not through drama, but through silence. She doesn't leave because you did something wrong. Leaves because nothing's alive. Doesn't depart because problems exist. Departs because energy is gone. Doesn't exit because conflict happened. Exits because charge is dead. Understanding this doesn't restore relationship, doesn't bring back energy, doesn't revive charge. But understanding prevents wrong lesson, prevents concluding you should have worked harder at making everything fine, prevents believing you should have solved more problems, prevents thinking you should have created more peace, because more fine would have made death faster. More solved problems would have accelerated depletion. More peace would have hastened exhaustion. Wrong optimization, wrong objective, wrong goal. Relationships don't survive because everything's fine. Survive because energy persists. Don't continue because nothing's wrong. Continue because charge maintains. Don't last because peace exists. Last because fuel remains. And energy persists through engagement. Charge maintains through investment. Fuel remains through active participation. Not through everything being fine. Through things being alive. Not through nothing being wrong. Through things being energetic. Not through peace existing. Through charge flowing. Fine and alive are different. Nothing wrong and energetic are different. Peace and charge are different. You can have fine without alive, nothing wrong without energetic, peace without charge. And fine without alive is death. Nothing wrong without energetic is ending. Peace without charge is exhaustion. This is what happened. This is why it ended. This is the mechanism. Nothing went wrong. Everything was fine. Peace existed. Comfort was achieved. Problems were solved. Routine was established. And all of these killed relationship. All of these depleted energy. All of these exhausted fuel. All of these ended connection. Not because these are bad, because these without energy are death. Not because these are wrong, because these without charge are ending. Not because these are failures, because these without fuel are exhaustion. Silent death is death nonetheless. Quiet ending is ending nonetheless. Fade is termination nonetheless. Harder to see than explosion, more confusing than fire, more mysterious than drama, but just as final, just as complete, just as over. Nothing went wrong, that's why it ended. Everything was fine, that's why it died. Peace existed, that's why it exhausted. Tomorrow, we'll look at an even more painful truth. She didn't find someone else to replace you. She stopped needing you at all. And that's a different kind of ending entirely.